At issue this Sunday morning, the race is on. New Jersey voters had their say in the primary, and the November general election matchup is now set in the contest to be the Garden State's next governor. Ahead, the factors that could decide the race and why the whole nation will pay close attention to the outcome.
NBC10 at Issue starts now.
I'm Lauren Mayk. Welcome to NBC10 at Issue. This past week, Democrats and Republicans went to the polls across New Jersey to choose their party's nominees. There were 11 candidates in the race between the two parties. Now it's down to 2. On the Democratic side, Congresswoman Mayk won her party's nomination. Her district is centered in Morris County, about 30 miles west of New York City. She was a Navy pilot and is a former prosecutor. Cheryl has also been a vocal critic of President Trump. She'll go up against Republican Jack Ciattarelli, who had the president's endorsement and easily won the Republican primary. He's from Somerset County in north central Jersey and is a former member of the state assembly. Ciattarelli narrowly lost the governor's race 4 years ago. Joining us now is the Republican nominee for New Jersey Governor, Jack Ciattarelli. Welcome to NBC10 at Issue, and congratulations on your primary race.
Hey, thanks very much, Lauren. The campaign team worked very hard, and we're very happy with the results, and now it's on to the general.
It is on to the general, and this is your second time as the Republican nominee. What do you say to New Jersey voters who maybe weren't sold on you 4 years ago? How are you going to convince them this time?
Hey, we were certainly in it to win it in 21, and we came awfully close. And people often ask me what's different this time around. Not really the issues. Last time around, these issues were simmering. They're at a complete boil this time, but certainly the landscape is very, very different. There's no pandemic. There's no shelter-in-place order. I'm not going against an incumbent, and there's a lot less indifference out there. And there's a whole lot of soft Democrats will be voting Republican this year because they're not happy with Phil Murphy's policies or the fact that my opponent has supported every one of his failed policies.
You and your opponent are both talking a lot about affordability, and taxes is something I've heard a lot about from the people I've talked to in New Jersey. You've said you want to reduce income taxes for everyone. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, we finally have forced her to talk about the affordability crisis. She hadn't wanted to talk about it, but it's what's on everybody's mind. I have to reduce the size and cost, Lauren, of our state government. Phil Murphy has increased the size of our government and spending. He's up $22 billion in 8 years' time. That's 60% increase. It's gotten bloated. It's gotten inefficient. By reducing the size and cost of our state government, I can lower income taxes for individuals and for our businesses. Our individuals and our businesses here in New Jersey face the highest overall tax burden in the country. I've also got to lower property taxes, and we can do that with a new school funding formula.
You mentioned reducing the size of government, and we've obviously recently seen the federal government effort to do that recently. How would you go about that in New Jersey, and would you do it in a similar way to what we've seen in Washington?
We're going to be very responsible about going about cutting the size of our state government. So every program will be under consideration. Every agency will be under consideration. It's not that I celebrate putting people on the unemployment line, but we need to downsize our state government. But let me say this. If the reforms I have in mind for the private sector work, and I believe they will, the private sector will certainly grow the economy and create more jobs.
Do you envision a DOGE type of team figuring out where you're going to make those cuts, or do you already have a map for them?
You know, Lauren, a lot of people don't realize we already have a kind of DOGE in New Jersey state government. There is a state committee for investigations whose job it is to identify fraud throughout state government. And then we have a state comptroller whose job it is to identify waste and inefficiency. I'm going to put the two of them together under one auditor general who will be a member of the cabinet, and that person will be responsible for getting rid of the waste, getting rid of the inefficiency, and identifying fraud in our $50 billion state government.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you would be able to do as governor. You would appoint the attorney general. You have said that your attorney general would not be suing the White House for President Trump's executive orders. What if President Trump does something wrong or something unconstitutional? Does that mean he just gets a pass?
I think our governor should be working in partnership, Lauren, with the president and keeping the country safe. He's done his part by securing the border. Illegal crossings are down 99%. We're not going to have sanctuary cities in New Jersey when I'm governor. We're not going to be a sanctuary state. And my attorney general will not be suing the White House over any and all measures that are meant to keep the country safe. That's what the president ran on. He won overwhelmingly. And that's what New Jerseyans want. When that border was open and porous under Joe Biden, every one of us became a border state, particularly when you have sanctuary cities and being a sanctuary state status. That only encourages illegal immigration. My Attorney General worked in partnership with me and the White House to keep the country and our state safe.
Let me dig into that a little bit more. We've been watching things play out in Los Angeles with protests over ICE operations there, and President Trump has deployed the National Guard. As governor in New Jersey, the National Guard would be under your direction. Would you be okay with the president activating them for purposes without your consent or your cooperation?
The governor of California is dragging his feet with what is a public safety threat, and so the president did what he had to do. The president won't have to worry about me dragging my feet in New Jersey, but we'll work in partnership to keep our 9.5 million citizens safe. You can believe me on that. And by the way, what we saw on the Jersey Shore over our Memorial Day weekend, flash mobs, 101 arrests in one town alone, stabbings, minors creating all kinds of chaos and violence on our Jersey Shore. We're not going to have it when I'm governor.
And what is it that you would do to prevent it?
There needs to be consequences. Number one, if you're 16 or older, you'll be tried as an adult. Number two, if you're under 16, we're going to find the parents. I'm sorry that we've gotten to this point, but there need to be consequences. And let me say something else about minors being brought down to the police station because of what they've been doing on the boardwalk that might be violent, chaos, or civil disturbance. We're going to put you in confinement until your parents show up and get that cop back out on the street. I'm not going to have local police officers spending 3 or 4 hours in a police station waiting for some minors' parents to show up.
Are situations like that something where you would consider yourself sending in National Guard troops or state personnel of some type?
We have a state militia. It's called the state police. But if need be, we should do anything and everything we can to protect the peace. Civil disturbances of this kind are uncalled for, and we're not going to tolerate it. And by the way, the Jersey Shore is 1/7 of our state economy. And now we have curfews on our Jersey Shore because of these flash mobs. If you own a business on the Jersey Shore and we just took 2 hours a day of business away from you because of these curfews, that's not fair. We're not going to have that on our Jersey Shore.
You won your primary with the support of President Trump. Have you spoken to him since election night?
There's been communications between the White House and my campaign. I was honored to have his endorsement. He's been very much in tune with what matters to New Jerseyans. He's put a temporary halt on the wind farms off our Jersey Shore. We don't want them. They're bad economics, bad energy, and bad environmental policy. He's doing all he can to stop the congestion pricing plan New Yorkers are putting in place. I think it's an egregious money grab to try to fix their subway system on the backs of New Jerseyans. And he's also willing to quadruple the SALT deduction on our federal tax returns. That's critically important in a state like New Jersey, which has the highest property taxes in the nation. So he's very much in tune with what's going on in New Jersey. I welcome his active involvement. And again, I was honored to have his endorsement.
Do you expect that you will see him in New Jersey campaigning for you in the coming months?
I really do. But what gets me most excited also about the results of the primary is we are united behind one candidate. We've had magnificent registration gains in the past 48 months here in New Jersey, but we still are the minority party, which means we don't win unless we're united. The president united the party last election day. He won all 7 swing states, won the Electoral College, won the popular vote, won the House, won the Senate. We want to do those same kind of things right here in New Jersey. And based on yesterday's tabulations, we're behind our candidate, and I'm honored to have the faith, trust, and confidence of the vast majority of Republicans across the state.
Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican nominee for New Jersey governor, thanks for joining us. Look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, Lauren, thank you.
We reached out to Democratic nominee Mayk for an interview, but she was unavailable. We do plan to speak with her on an upcoming episode of NBC10 At Issue. But here's some of what she had to say on election night.
We're going to build something worthy of our state and worthy of our kids. With all of you, we can take on the tough fights and win. You saw it in this election. The Democratic Party is ready for the fight.
Cheryl is trying to become just the second woman to be elected governor in New Jersey's history. Coming up, I go one-on-one with the first woman elected to run the Garden State. Christine Todd Whitman ran as a Republican back in the 90s, but has since left the party. Straight ahead, which candidate she's endorsing this time around.
Wawa Welcome America kicks off on Juneteenth.
Shop Black-owned businesses and enjoy live musical performances for the entire family at the African American Museum in Philadelphia.
Brought to you by Wawa, proud sponsor of Wawa Welcome America.
Popeyes brings you Bowl Louisiana Crunch, wrapped up and ready to roll. Our hand-breaded chicken tenders wrapped in a flour tortilla with lettuce, cheese, and pickles prove that big flavors come in small packages.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Isn't that the new jackpot ticket in that pile of laundry?
Hey there, you forgot to check the pockets. Check the pockets!
$1 million down the drain.
Hey, laundry guy!
Oh, I can't watch.
Get the ticket! Ticket, man! Ticket!
Hit the ticket!
Whew. Well, that was almost a load of trouble.
Scratch off this one, take on a life of their own. Keep on scratching.
Celebrating 10 years of community heroes, 4 nonprofits stand a chance to win the Wawa Foundation Hero Award and $50,000. Vote by June 27th at thewawafoundation.org. Winner announced July 4th.
When we were trying to come up with like a name for the company, we wanted something to like actually represent Philly.
So many people are reaching out to Philotherapy, seeking mental health services from all different walks of life, and that's what we strive for. That personal touch, I think, that Philotherapy gives the client. TD Bank was doing the same thing with us, and that's certainly why we, at Philotherapy love TD Bank.
TD Bank is proud to support small businesses like Philotherapy.
Fall in love with Latin culture this summer at Concilio's annual Hispanic Fiesta with amazing food, dancing, and a live concert by Ivy Queen, Saturday, June 28th at Love Park.
Sponsored by Abogado Martin Arias.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
We're back now on NBC10 at Issue with more on the race to be New Jersey's next governor. After Tuesday's primary, the November matchup is now set. Democrat Mayk Sherrill will face Republican Jack Ciattarelli. Before the break, we heard from Jack Ciattarelli, and if Sherrill wins this November, she'll become just the second woman and first Democratic woman ever elected as New Jersey's governor. We're now joined by the first woman elected as New Jersey governor, Christine Todd Whitman. She served as governor from 1994 to 2001. She was elected as a Republican, but has since left the party and is now a registered independent. And she is now a co-chair of the Forward Party, and she endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Welcome, Governor Whitman. It is great to see you.
Good to be with you, Lauren. My pleasure.
So you've done the job that these candidates are vying for before. First of all, my understanding is that you are now backing Democrat Mayk Sherrill. Why do you think she's the right one for the job?
Well, I met with her. I know her a bit. I've talked to her. She's got the strength. She's got the leadership experience. She's got the focus that the state needs. Her ads, if you saw them and spent much time with them over the election, the pre-election primary cycle, were about issues. We're about how do we solve, what are the biggest problems facing New Jerseyans? How do we solve those problems? I have the confidence that she can deliver on that and that she will deliver on that. She's good, sound decision maker and a good, strong personality, what we need in New Jersey.
When Jack Ciattarelli ran 4 years ago, he was up against Governor Murphy. Did you vote for him back then? Jack Ciattarelli?
He's changed a lot. Jack has changed significantly since I first knew him, particularly. I mean, and he, not all that long ago, he was not a fan of Donald Trump's, and now he's become a complete acolyte. And so it's been disappointing to see that change, and I couldn't bring myself to vote for him again.
Okay. Oh, did you vote for him the first time, though?
That's for me to know and you to find out. That's why it's a secret ballot.
I'm trying.
You're trying.
All right. Well, you ran as a Republican when you ran for governor in New Jersey, and you served as governor as a Republican. What do you think Republicans in your former party need to do to win over independents like yourself in New Jersey right now?
Well, they need to come back to the center. They need to disavow a lot of what you see coming out of this administration. I mean, I had a pin in one of my mottos for the state was many faces, one family. That's what makes us strong. We're a state of immigrants. Well, we're a nation of immigrants, and this dividing people, this hating people, that's not us. That's not the American people. I want to see them return to a respect for the rule of law and the Constitution and stop this expansion. I mean, Republicans used to be all for local government and all for small government. That there's been a huge expansion by this president reaching into states and taking over things that he has no business taking over, and messing with things like universities that aren't adhering to the policies to which he wants them to adhere. We've never seen that before, and that's wrong. And the Republican Party needs to get back to what it used to be. When it was in the center, it was focused on solving problems, talking with people. That's why I'm with the Forward Party. And if it ever gets to be a recognized party in New Jersey, I will register Forward, because our whole premise, there are three principles. They're democracy, dignity, and diversity. We don't see that dignity and diversity or the protection of democracy, frankly, with this administration in Washington.
I looked back at what you were talking about, and your opponent was talking about, Governor Florio, what you guys were talking about in the 93 campaign, what were the big issues. And you were talking about taxes. You were talking about a budget shortfall. We're still talking about those things today. Why do you think they have been so stubborn for New Jersey to deal with?
Well, first of all, the biggest thing, I mean, when I left, we had a balanced budget, which you're required to do by law. We also had the largest surplus and the largest rainy day fund that we'd ever had, and all those kinds of, I mean, we had a good financial record. You can do it, but you can't cut taxes, which is one of the things we did and what I ran on, and not cut spending. So we had to do both. It wasn't pleasant. I had a lot of people opposing me in that first year because I made cuts where I thought it made sense. It wasn't wholesale. It wasn't with a chainsaw. It was strategic. But the real problem in plaguing New Jerseyans is the property tax. And when you have candidates, and I don't believe, and I've done some research on this, I haven't seen it, that Mayk ever said that she was going to reduce the property tax. And I think Jack has. And people have heard that over and over again, and they just don't believe it. And they shouldn't, because guess what? The governor can't do that. The property tax is levied and spent by the local communities. And the state, all the state can do is try to give the counties and the municipalities some more money so they can spend it in other ways and they don't have to rely on the property tax. People have to get engaged and ask these questions, but that's where those problems are going to be solved, not at the state level.
All right, Governor Whitman, we'll have to leave it there. It was great to talk to you. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective today on that issue.
My pleasure. Take care.
Our coverage of the New Jersey primary results doesn't end here. Straight ahead, we'll be joined by a political expert to look at the role South Jersey will play in the November election.
With more jackpots hitting every hour, FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, which is still winning. Still better than number 24. Writing a hit song about
jackpots all day. Jackpots. Another one.
Or number 47, hanging out with a bunch of people named Jack Potts.
So I say to the guy, call me Jack. Mr. Potts is my father.
Welcome comfort into your home this season and save up to 20% on your purchase during the summer savings event at Raymore and Flanagan. You're in charge of your savings. Get 10, 15, or 20% off your purchases. The more you buy, the bigger the discount. Refresh your home both inside and out with delivery in 3 days or less. Want to buy now and pay over time? Enjoy no interest financing for 72 months. Get your home summer ready with fresh new looks and savings of up to 20% at Raymore and Flanagan.
Just a few reactions to what just took place.
For a U.S. Open championship, there's a special father-son bond that will endure forever.
The U.S. Open on NBC10, locally sponsored by Hatfield. Better care, better pork.
Gotta get ready to lose. This track is definitely mine.
Oh, please, Chris, you've been driving circles for years. But I'm gonna show you how it's done.
Race on, Tiana. Welcome to the show.
My game is on, and it's faster than yours.
It's gonna do it.
You should be worried.
Guess who won, Chris?
Nothing wrong with second place. Nothing at all.
Okay. First place action all the time. NASCAR weekend at Pocono Raceway.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
We're back now with more analysis of this past week's New Jersey primary. The race for governor is now set. NBC's Steve Kornacki has a look at how each party's nominee achieved their victory.
All right, Lauren, matchup set in the New Jersey governor's race. No surprise here on the Republican side. Jack Ciattarelli wins this easily. He had Donald Trump's endorsement. That's huge, obviously, in Republican primaries everywhere. And remember, Ciattarelli was the Republican nominee in the last governor's race. He almost beat Governor Phil Murphy back in 2021. So landslide for Ciattarelli. He'll get another shot in the general election. All of the action really was here on the Democratic side. Now, in the end, Congresswoman Mayk Sherrill gets about a third of the vote, wins this nomination. Sherrill did have the support of a lot of the major Democratic machines, the county organizations in the big counties in the north. You see how well she did up there, even in places like Essex County, where she didn't actually win. She came in a strong second, so she was getting a lot of votes in North Jersey. But down in South Jersey, I think that was really interesting for Sherrill, too, because remember, she is from Morris County. There's only one candidate from the South, or there was, Steve Sweeney, the former state Senate president. He won his base of Gloucester County. He won Salem County. But then take a look here. In Big Burlington County, that's Mayk Sherrill, who came down from the north, and she won easily. How about Camden County? Again, it was closer, but Sherrill, not Sweeney, the candidate of South Jersey, Sherrill carries it. So there was just a breadth to Mayk Sherrill's support, north to south in New Jersey, that no other candidate could match. Sweeney did well in some places in the South. He was pretty much off the board in the north. Other candidates did well in the north, disappeared in the south. Sherrill was just consistently strong, even in counties she wasn't winning. So what does this mean for the general election matchup in November? It'll be Sherrill against Ciattarelli. What Democrats are counting on is simply the Trump factor. New Jersey has a history of electing governors who are not from the White House party. Trump has the White House. That would be historically a disadvantage for Republicans. But Republicans are saying, hey, Donald Trump did a lot better in New Jersey in last year's presidential election than he had in the past. Maybe they're saying he's not the liability he used to be. We got some months here to find out. The matchups are set, Lauren.
Joining us now to help analyze the New Jersey primary results is Kelly Dittmar. She is an associate professor of political science at Rutgers University, Camden, and she's also the director of research and scholar at the Center for American Women and Politics at the Eagleton Institute of Politics. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the dynamics of this race. You know, when we heard from both of them on election night, we heard them talking about change. We heard them talking about affordability. They're both kind of pitching themselves in that way. What does that mean for the race? What's the key to the race?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're smart in knowing that at the end of the day, voters are worried about their day-to-day. You know, can they afford groceries? Can they pay for their kids' school? Can they get health care, et cetera? And so both candidates, especially in a gubernatorial race, are going to focus on those things like affordability. But they have very different ideas about how you get there. And then you're going to see also distinction between them on their alignment with the Republican and Democratic Party, particularly, obviously, their alignment with Donald Trump, as we're talking about a political environment where the federal kind of attention to the federal policies are having really important impacts on states. So I think we'll start to see that division.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this. How much do you expect, and we're just at the beginning of the general election at this point, how much do you expect this is going to turn on things like local issues, your tax policy, for example, and how much of it may be about the Trump administration and what President Trump says and how they respond to that?
I'm really curious about this because part of it will be pushed by the candidates themselves. And I think the candidates have an incentive, particularly Mayk Sherrill, to focus on federal issues and national issues and a dislike of what President Trump is doing, right, to energize and mobilize voters. We see voters being mobilized on these issues in protests, et cetera. And so she's going to try to capitalize on that. At the same time, we know that voters at the end of the day are going to be most concerned about things like their taxes, their cost of living. And so she does risk spending too much time on federal issues and not enough time to speak to voters where they are and what affects them on a daily basis.
Let's talk about South Jersey, because neither of these candidates are from South Jersey. Right. What role do you expect this area to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think both candidates are going to have to do more work, again, to engage and energize South Jersey voters because they weren't here that much during the primary. In the case of Cheryl, she's going to probably be looking to, again, lean into her identity as part of the Navy, kind of focus on this competence and getting stuff done, former prosecutor, toughness. That gives her that moderate persona that made her successful in beating out a Republican in North Jersey. I think that could also be successful in South Jersey. But again, Ciattarelli is going to lean in on the fact that, you know, he's focused on reducing costs, reducing the role of government, and making sure that it's most efficient. And that's going to also appeal to voters across the state, but I think also in South Jersey.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Kelly Dittmar from Rutgers University, Camden. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. Size doesn't matter. I'm 4'11". One of Ninja's smallest ever. Nice. I love the fight. This kid is all heart. This is literally 3 times his height. Can he do it?
American Ninja Warrior, Monday on NBC and Peacock.
What is the perfect audition? Something surprising, and it just makes you feel genuinely amazing.
AGT, Tuesday on NBC and Peacock.
Count on NBC10 to fight for you when you need us to.
So many people feel these days that they're not seen, that they're not heard. We know that you need somebody in your corner. Problems that are small and big, from a cracked iPad to something as big as a fraudulent $14,000 check. We will take up the cause, and we will go after the company, and we will resolve the issue. I promise.
Whenever you need us, wherever you are, NBC10 is here for you. Count on it.
Welcome to NBC10 News Today.
The most accurate weather forecast certified by WeatherRate.
Thunderstorms going to overtake the area.
Breaking news.
Reporting live in Camden County.
That's right, Aaron. We've been following the story all night long.
The day's top stories.
This is going to impact teachers and students.
Sheila's going to tell us which roads not to take.
No matter where you are, every weekday morning. NBC10 News Today. Count on it.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
Last week on NBC10 at Issue, we looked at the race for Atlantic City mayor. On Tuesday, voters made their decision in the primary. Incumbent Marty Small will be the Democratic candidate in the race for mayor. He received 62% of the vote, defeating challenger Bob McDevitt, a former union official. Small will face Naeem Khan, who ran unopposed in the Republican primary. You can find more primary election results on NBC10.com. That does it for this edition of NBC10 at Issue. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.